you had an experience where your ego kind of got the best of you.
Sure.
You started chasing success and you felt a lot of pain in that process because you lost some friends. You kind of burned some friends and you got caught up in that, right?
Yeah.
So now there's almost like, maybe it's unconsciously, but there's a part of you that's like, I can't be successful because success equals pain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what if I told you that the name of your brand and what you're doing with your brand actually has nothing to do with any of this?
It's probably true.
And what this really is all about is you being in alignment with your values. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Headliner Mindset Podcast. Today we have a very special episode. I am sitting in a room full of artists. I have been in LA this weekend, and very randomly, we decided to put together an artist workshop at my friend Antonio's house. And now I'm sitting here in Antonio's living room, and we are going to do something that I've never done before, which is inviting a few artists to come up and talk about their journey, talk about their issues, their problems. We're just going to do some live artist coaching on the spot, making this shit up on the fly. And I'm so excited. So I'm sitting here with Antonio, the host that brought us all together here today. First off, brother, thank you so much for having us over. You just had like, I don't know, like 20, 25 people over at your house. We did a bunch of like icebreakers. We got to know each other. For the last hour, we've been sitting here showing off music, listening to music, and now we're recording a live podcast in your living room, which is also a music studio, and it's fucking sick. So thank you, man.
Well, I'm going to say thank you guys for coming because I don't see anybody during the weekdays or the weekends, so I practically live in my living room. But yeah, I'm very excited to be, on your show, and it's been actually one of my kind of like, not like a fairy tale, but like a dream, because I don't know if like I've mentioned it to you. I spend a lot of time really trying to figure out, not like shortcuts, but like the person that I like finding myself basically, because your podcast has a lot of things that I've been, like dealing with in my personal life and in my professional life. So it's always good to have insight of, kind of like guidance, you can say.
Yeah. Well, look, let's dive right into it. What are some of the things in your personal life or in your artist life that have been coming up that you want to get support around?
Oh, I would say, like kind of the one that I've been kind of dealing with is like finding my own community of artists, especially for the fact that, originally like I came from the bass music scene. So, as I was growing up, everybody was like in the era of like 2007, 2008, everybody was like trying to find electronic. But during that time, it was mostly like R&B and hip hop. And, it was kind of like that era. So as I continued to grow as an artist, like my music style kind of changed throughout the years. So one of the things that I struggled with the most was finding a good community to be able to support the kind of music that I make. Just kind of like how everybody makes music. Everybody has their own different niches in which, their audience likes to hear. And for me, it's just like, especially with like very complex music, it's hard to find a community of people that like that sort of style of music.
Okay. And then what about if your style changes?
I'd say if my style changes, like I'm still songwriter and artist first. So, I will have to go ahead and adapt just like anything else, because just like in a business, like I am a business. In order for me to be able to be successful in what I want to do, I have to basically, kind of get my shit together on my end first. And then, when I bring it out to the world, it's one of the things that I have to adapt, because just like anywhere else, it's like a flight or fight kind of thing. If you don't fight for what you love, you're going to eventually end up sinking. And then, you're going to fall into the loop of like, why am I still doing this?
Okay. So having a community. I mean, this is something I've talked about on the podcast. I think it's so important. It's the reason I moved out to Austin. That's where my coaching friends were, having other people that are into what you're doing. It's so important. We're pack animals. We're not supposed to be doing things by ourselves. So what are you looking for in community? What is it that you want to have?
So, I mean, just like everywhere else, like I guess in the beginning, the community that I had the idea of is like coming into was like acceptance. But, as it got more into a deeper level, it's more like sharing my creative art with other people that have the same kind of vision. Because like in electronic music specifically, like there's a lot of subcategories and there's a lot of things that kind of go on that, now that I see that I'm more an experienced producer and songwriter, I see that like there's like a big like divide basically. So, you got like the house guys, you got the techno guys, and then you got like the bass music guys. So for me, it's just to find an audience that not only access for the music or the art that I produce, but mainly for kind of something more consistent. Because a lot of the times, especially when you get into these like groups or, you know, you involve yourself a little bit more heavily in the community, it can become in a good way, or the relationship in that community can be bad. And then, you know, kind of like anywhere else, you can end up exiled from that community depending on what you do and how you go ahead and you approach yourself and involve yourself in that community.
Is that something that happened to you?
No, I've seen it a lot, you know, like a lot of the times, you know, like people will go out and they'll go into a community where they feel they fit perfectly, but the people aren't exactly the people they want to be associated with in that community. So it's very hard to kind of differentiate, you know, being an artist and being in a community that can be healthy for you, because in this music scene specifically, a lot of the times, you know, you get involved with like heavy drugs, alcohol use, or you just get involved with people that are trying to take advantage of you. And just because, you know, the substance abuse doesn't come in, you know, the mental aspect of that community kind of affects you and how you go out throughout your day.
Yeah. No, you're bringing up really great points. I've definitely heard this mentioned before, and I have, you know, even a client right now that's kind of going through the same thing of trying to find your people, right? It's like, where are the people that are in alignment with not only what am I doing, but also what do I believe in and what type of person am I? And if we're existing in this sort of this dance music community, which is really what we're talking about here, yeah, drugs, alcohol, partying, all of that does come with it, right? So what are you looking for specifically in a community? If you could design and create the perfect community for yourself, what would that look like?
Well, just like my Jurassic Park days on my PlayStation, I would say what I'm looking for in a community is mainly just like a good gratitude of love and support, because it's really hard, like mentioning once again, it's really hard to build a community where other artists aren't trying to be competitive, even though it's a natural given in this industry, but more of, you know, sharing the community and being able to support each other, because, you know, in the real world, it's everybody's just trying to one up each other, but they forget that, like, you know, in this community, you're supposed to help each other out, especially because it's a creative kind of field. And a lot of the times, you know, especially in communities that are involved in making a lot of money based on our music scene, it kind of doubles down where it's hard to kind of move things forward if the community isn't really helping each other out.
So I'm hearing a belief in this.
It could be a belief. And, you know, like I mentioned, this is just from like my previous experiences and previous experiences from other artists. But the music industry is a great thing. And that's what I want people to know, like, especially when you're building a community. So there's not a right or wrong way. It's just everybody has their own, you know, experiences when it comes to kind of stuff like this.
Yeah. But what is the belief that I'm hearing here?
The belief is that there's a great community for anybody out there. And it's just finding it, and, you know, by trial and error.
But hearing, because you know how I roll, bro.
Yeah, of course.
You've been a client of mine before.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're gonna peel back the layers, and we're gonna go a little bit deeper here, because I've heard you say a few times that it's hard to build a community, that people are competitive, right? Is that an absolute truth?
No, it's not. And, you know, like I want to reiterate, like, you know, a lot of the times, specifically with the electronic music scene, like, we're a music scene that's very loving compared to a lot of other, you know, music scenes out there. And the thing is kind of like Pluri, you know, like peace, love, unity, respect.
Yeah.
You go out there with that mindset of wanting to help each other out. But, you know, from like IRL kind of things, it's really hard to kind of go ahead and kind of like wiggle your way around in that sort of thing, because, you know, just like in the real world, there's people out there trying to cause harm, and there's people trying to do good. Yeah. So my thing is just going about, like, just try to associate yourself with a community that, you know, will support you in the long run.
And you said the two words that I keep hearing that are reaffirming the belief that you have, which is that it's hard. And so just to remind both of us how we are creating our own reality all of the time. The reality that you live in and that you're creating for yourself isn't necessarily the same as the one that I'm creating for myself or the next person next to us, right? But if whatever you believe is what your reality is going to be, whatever you believe is what you're going to see. So if you believe that it's hard to build a community, if you believe that everybody out there is competitive, right? I even see this a lot of times with dating. A lot of women are like, there's no good guys out there. Where are all the good guys at? And it's like, well, you don't believe that there's any good guys out there, so that's why you're not finding them, right? But if you believe that there is an abundance of really badass, high quality men or women out there, you're going to start seeing them, right? And even on a, you know, that we can talk about it from the spiritual manifestation level, right? Like, if I believe that there's amazing people out there, that there's a lot of artists that are making music from their heart, that are living with love, that are living with gratitude. There's a lot of amazing people. If I believe that, then on the law of attraction manifestation level, we're going to see that. We're going to attract that into our lives. But even on the scientific level, there's something called the reticular activating system, which is literally a part of your brain that will see whatever it is focusing on. So imagine the example that people use all the time is imagine that you are about to buy a new car. Like, I really want to buy a black Jeep. Like, I see myself, that's going to be my next car. I want a sick fucking black Jeep. You know, I live in Texas now. I need a truck, you know, I can't be driving my Acura around in Texas, you know, but as soon as I get ready to buy that car and I'm thinking about it, I'm going to start seeing black Jeeps everywhere. Right now, it's not that there are more black Jeeps. It's that my mind is focusing on black Jeeps. So now I'm seeing them. So, right. And so in the same way, if I believe that everybody's competitive and that it's hard to build community, I'm going to keep seeing the things that are hard and the competitiveness. That's what I'm going to see. All right. So you said it's hard probably 4 or 5 times. And that's why I'm cracking it open. Let's really look at this. Let's really look at this belief. When you start to shift your belief, like, well, what if it's not hard? What if it's actually easy? What if, holy shit, there were just 25 people in your house that were all dope as fuck, that all live here in LA, that talking about not building community, bro. We just had a party in your house.
So this is the one thing that I want to touch up on, and it's let me rephrase it. It's not in the sense hard, but I guess it's in the sense like hard to be continuous within that community because it's like personal aspects come in, or just like me, like I'm an introvert extrovert. Like I love being home because I have all the comfortability of being home. But as an artist, that isn't exactly bad thing for me because that means that I don't go out into the real world a little bit more to realize that, you know, it's better to try things out and see how they go because, you know, naturally speaking, the person that I am, I'm not saying you guys are like that, but the person that I am naturally, like, I like to stay home and feel the comfort because I work so hard for it, but that's actually one of my negatives as an artist. Yeah. Because as artists, we're supposed to be out there, you know, grinding, hustling, making sure that we do the extra part to go out there. And also, once again, it is in the middle. Let me rephrase it. It's not hard to find a community, but it's also the hard part that I'm kind of trying to mention and like kind of dive back in is that it's hard to be continuous, at least on my end, to stay a part of that community because of my introverted aspects.
Well, beautifully said. Great self-awareness because, I want to have a community, but I never want to have to leave my house and put in any work or do any networking. Yeah. So can we see where there might be a little bit of a conflict here?
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that. And like I said, it's just like it's like the mindset that, like, you know, some people are really great being at home and like that works for them. Yeah. But necessarily, you know, like especially when you were coaching me, like I was at my most extrovert, which was great because I saw, like, it's kind of like the story, like the hero story. Like I was going through it and I saw that there was a lot of things in my life that I was just I wasn't doing necessarily wrong, but I just needed to kind of get it in line because, you know, like I was trying to do too much, you know, like I was, you know, I had my company, which is No Sleep Alumni. I had, you know, my music projects, and then I had other things that I was trying to do. And as an artist, it didn't really line up. I wasn't focusing on my music. And it's not till you came into my life and, you know, you gave me the wonderful materials of your course that I was able to really dive deep and get into the things that, you know, my artistry really, really had to focus on. And it was honestly beautiful. And not only did it impact my professional life, it impacted my personal life. My relationships with my friends, including my partner, were a lot better. I was more happier and I was able to engage more with other artists because I wasn't really afraid of the, you know, like trial and error kind of concept. And that's something that, you know, kind of going back to the original question, I guess that's the hard part for the person themselves to go out there and kind of put themselves out into that perspective.
Yeah. So what do you want to do about it?
So what I have been doing about it is, for the first time in a while, I've actually, you know, like I had a point where like I am financially like good now. So I'm able to go back into focus on music. I've been writing, but I've been writing smart. Like I'm not just like wasting time behind the computer and, you know, being like, well, I hope this works. Yeah. Because with a lot of my projects, like I wasn't finishing them. And that's a big struggle for other artists as well. You know, they get behind the computer and they sit there and they're like, oh, you know, like I'm not going to make it, because they compare themselves to a lot of big, you know, influential artists, a lot of commercial artists. And that's the thing. A lot of people forget to write music for, you know, for what it is. Yeah. So when they're writing music and they're able to move forward with stuff, they're able to really get the concept of like, hey, like this is how I'm going to fix the problem. Yeah. Because in order to fix the problem, you need to find the solution within the problem first.
So what do you want to do about finding a community?
What I actually want to do about it is basically, you know, like kind of like today, you know, get together with these lovely people that I've never met, which have the same vision as I do, and share that vision together. Because the type of person I am, like, I'm the type of guy, like, I don't like asking for help. I don't like going out and looking for it just because that's the way that I was raised. And that's something that, you taught me, which is like being able to break a barrier that you're so consistently conditioned to be, going through.
Yeah.
And, like I grew up with the mindset as a child to be like, hey, like I want to go ahead and do this way. Like it was very linear, but like, going through your course and, even you as a person, you helped me break those, like peeling back the onion one by one and figuring stuff out as we went.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I would just throw this out there that, I think a lot of us, when it comes to community and having that circle, we're oftentimes looking at the communities that already exist. And that's when we sometimes run into the misalignment of like, oh, I see these people out here and I'm hanging out with them, but like, I don't really feel like we're living the same lifestyle or we have the same values or even making the same kind of music, but maybe this is like the crowd that's like kind of cool and popular. So I kind of want to be a part of it or whatever it may be. I think honestly, that's how I found Icon was I was managing DJs, but I was kind of caught. It was a lot of the like late night party lifestyle. I was literally babysitting DJs, like trying to they were getting so drunk. I was just like, this isn't a cool thing. I was like, I want to find, artists that are really more about the self-expression. And that was when I found Icon and I was like, oh, this is a great community for me to join. What I was really getting at though, is it might be that you get to create your own community. Right? Yeah.
And funny that you mentioned that because it's like, since when we first met, I mentioned that like, I had a little small community myself, which is the No Sleep alumni crowd. And, we went from like doing shows at my house, live streaming stuff to like, doing shows at like Catch One or Avalon and stuff like that. And it was great because I really got to know the artists that, I was putting together and then, coordinating these events. And it was one of the things where I was very, very happy to kind of like move things forward. And it's just me as a person, like once again, it's just like my personal mentality stops me and blocks me from doing and achieving great things. And, like I mentioned, once you started coming into my life and when we started kind of peeling back the layers of what was going on, it's just self-realization at that point and then trying to fix the problems as they went.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were building that community already. Is that something that you're still kind of active with?
Yeah, I'm still kind of active. Like right now we're focusing mainly on like helping artists basically like one up their like branding and, like their videos and stuff. Like right now we just luckily got one of a hell of a lifetime opportunity where we're able to basically go ahead and like really show our content creation to a lot of people. And recently we made a milestone of being able to hit 2 million views for one of the clients that we work with.
Wow.
So, and that was under 30 days, which I'm very happy about because, there was a lot of time where I would spend behind the computer and I was afraid showing my editing skills or anything else in between to be able to kind of move things forward. And it was hard, like a lot of self-doubt, but at the end of the day, I realized that even goals like that are very achievable with hard work.
Is this fulfilling your need for community though?
Yeah, it is because, it brought new people into my life and, I kind of was looking forward to that because at the end of the day, like there's just like like-minded people with the same passion, the same vision.
Yeah.
But for my music aspect stuff, like also with the artists that I was meeting through when I was coordinating all these events and putting this stuff together, I would say, it did fulfill a lot of the stuff that I wanted to go ahead and find in the community.
Okay. So what's missing then?
I guess at this point, just a really great sponsor. So if you know somebody, that'd be great.
Okay. So, I mean, but back to what, what you brought up originally was you were saying that you feel like it's hard to make community. You feel like it's, that people are competitive, but now you're also saying that you feel fulfilled in that area of having community.
Yeah. Well, I'd say in the community of like No Sleep alumni, like there's other communities out there just for everybody else.
Yeah.
And, like my community is very small and I'd say probably like less than 10 people, but within given time and more coordination and us doing events and getting ourselves out there, that community can grow.
Yeah.
And I guess like, going back to what I was saying, it's not as hard as it should be, but it's just like a mental blockage for me because, a lot of things in my life, I feel that I overshoot them or overthink them.
Yeah.
And that's something, like kind of peeling back the onion, that's something that a lot of artists have when it comes to very minute concepts that are very easy, but the mental blockage kind of brings you down on that part.
Well, it sounds like you already have a community. And it's 10 people, maybe instead of 1,000 people. And so maybe you feel like you don't really have a community, but this is just where it is right now. It doesn't need to look like anybody else. It doesn't need to be bigger. It doesn't need to be anything other than it is, and really being grateful for what you have, continuing to feed that, It's always easy to look at like what other people are doing and feel like that's what it should be. It should be bigger. It should like look like that, but you have some cool shit going on already.
Thank you. And it's just like, like I mentioned, it's just like when I was a kid, like my mother always taught me to like not really congratulate myself for things because it's like, my mom was an immigrant mother and she was a single mother. So whenever things got like really real, she was like, oh, it's just like whatever's.
Yeah.
So like I guess it had to do with a lot of my growing up, like as a child, and, you know, kind of bringing that baggage into the real world.
It's never enough.
Yeah, it's never enough. And, you know, like now, even with all the success that I have, it's just like, I personally feel like it's not enough, but everybody else is like, dude, you're fucking killing it. You're doing this, you're grinding.
Yeah.
And
so you know how I roll. I'm really big on celebration, right? Because this is also just the way our brain is designed, is we're also always, you know, looking at what we don't have, how we haven't come far enough along. I don't have 1 million followers yet. I'm not headlining EDC yet, so I'm not a success yet. It's like, all right, calm down. Come back and let's fucking celebrate, right? So let's take a moment. What are you proud of in your life right now, and what can we celebrate together in this moment?
I'd say I'm proud of the friendships and the even, you know, the relationship with my partner that I have right now, because it's one of the things that like people don't understand, that like money and materialistic objects will never make you happy. And it's one of the things that I'm very proud of, to say that like I feel like not only am I a great friend to them, but also that I have a great friendship with them as well too, because sometimes people are blindsided by a lot of things that don't really matter.
Yeah. Beautifully said. And I will throw one into the mix as well. I just want to celebrate that we just had such a fun event at your house.
Thank you.
That you are surrounded by amazing artists and amazing people. And, you know, none of this would have happened without you. You're a magnet for positive energy, for creativity, and for cool people. And so
I love it.
Just really celebrating this amazing event that we got to put on together today.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thanks,
All right, guys.
Thanks for hopping on.
Well, I'm going to let the next artist come, because, you know, the show must go on. So
yes, sir.
Thank you for having me on here.
Up next, we have Michael Helton, who goes by MHELT and is the man.
How's it going, bro?
What's up, dude? I'm very, very excited to dive in with you. Actually, another client of mine, someone I'm working with currently. So we're actually,
Let's do it.
We're in the trenches right now together. I already know everything about you, dude.
Right? I know. Right? I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So what's up? What can I support you with today?
I'd say like, you know, I like getting kind of vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I'd say one of my biggest like hangups was kind of getting in my own way when it came to maybe kind of a lack of community, being outside of like the Icon group that, you know, I came down to California for, right? And just kind of not really having a disconnect from that community for a bit, and having to kind of go gung-ho on like the individual kind of independent route, right? And you know, when it came to sending my music out to labels and things like that, I'd get some bites, you know, and the more no's you get, the less they hurt. But you know, I got in my head about it a bit for probably a good 6-month period, and kind of went through some dark times, and kind of had to recalibrate and refocus on why I really kind of went after this whole music thing to begin with, and what that really means for me.
And what is that?
It's chasing purpose. And for me, it's really self-exploration, because I grew up a kid, you know, got into my 20s, didn't play any instruments growing up, but I'd always kick myself because I felt like I had this ear for music and producing in some sort of facet, right? And so I just got this overwhelming sense of intuition that kind of led me into coming down to Icon, not knowing much, and just kind of fully diving into the whole curriculum and the whole lifestyle of being a music producer. And I learned so much. And I really, I feel like a lot of us do get into it at a point. It's so hard to kind of fight with the ego in music, because it is a thing. You create it. It's a part of you. And then you put it out into the world, and it's like a vulnerability, right? And then when it doesn't get necessarily that, you know, desired expectation of what you got, you get in your head about it, because it's closer to your vulnerable nature as an artist.
Yeah.
Right?
That expectation.
Yeah. And that need for validation that just is not real.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is not what your purpose is that you were just telling me,
Not
which is
at all.
about self-expression.
Not at all.
So
right?
there's another little sneaky part that's coming in there.
Exactly.
Where we're telling ourselves, I'm just making music to express myself.
Exactly.
But if we're feeling that pain of not getting enough likes, or not getting enough views, or not getting enough success, then that's not totally true. There's another sense there of I'm actually doing this for something else.
For something else, for that feeling of outer acceptance at a point, right? And so I've really kind of had to dial that back and reground myself. And that's one big reason why I hit up Nik, you know, to kind of really dive in and peel back some of the layers that I've just been teetering around, and knowing what those obstacles are, but not necessarily knowing how to go about fixing those.
What do you think your biggest obstacles really are right now? If we had
right
to be
now, I think
super clear and succinct on that.
Right. I'd say my biggest obstacle is just kind of putting myself out there more. I have a lot of product and not a ton of packaging. And so it's really kind of figuring out what value my product can serve within the industry.
So putting yourself out there in terms of like, what does putting yourself out there look like from
just
your
sending my
perspective?
music to more artists for artist support, or bigger labels or medium labels, or just basically any labels. I actually started my own label last year just to self-release some stuff, just to kind of like get in that flow state. And
what stops you from putting yourself out there?
I'd say just the willingness to just want to one-up myself every time, right? And then that kind of brings me back to the whole kind of like the musical genius aspect of things, where it's like it doesn't come from me, it comes through me, right? And just like showing up and being consistent and disciplined about it allows art to actually come out of you much more fluid.
Yeah. Okay, but music's already made. You're sitting on product.
Yep.
What's stopping you from putting it out there and hitting people up?
Honestly, I mean, I guess it's a lack of, connection, a lack of seeking out connection, and more so waiting to kind of be discovered in a way rather than, really putting myself out there to be discovered.
Yeah. Making shit happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like just getting real vulnerable with that and everything. It's like, I've been putting myself out there. I've been getting more no's on label releases. I got a yes the other day.
Let's go, baby.
Right.
Let's go.
Right.
Pause.
Right.
Celebrate the fuck out of that. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So that'll be the first label release. I sent them 4 tracks and they want to release them, but they want to release them as singles.
Did you celebrate that when it happened?
I did, but I don't think I celebrated as much as I should have.
No. And see, I'm gonna just hammer this home real quick.
Yep.
Like again, and I'm sure there's some neuroscience behind this, but when we do something, we have to acknowledge ourselves for it, and we have to celebrate it. And it's not just for shits and giggles. It's that when we reward ourselves and we pause and we acknowledge and we celebrate ourselves, we are conditioning ourselves to feel good when we do that thing. So unconsciously, we're going to want to do more of those, right? Exactly. But usually we just do it and then it's like, okay, cool, I did that. Now I'm just moving on right away. And we're not actually really pausing. We're not really celebrating. You know what I mean?
I think that's one of my biggest obstacles is really not like reflecting on the wins I've had.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to produce 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now, I've had music on, YouTube channels and stuff with millions of followers and subscribers.
Yeah. What was your first song you put out? Like, didn't
House
it
Nation.
It had like millions of views or something? Or like
not quite that many, but it had thousands. Like 45,000.
Okay.
I mean, it's something.
Yeah.
And then I released later that year on Chill Nation and just kind of plugged away that way. It wasn't necessarily like the label route, but like it definitely helped with just.
And so this is a huge part, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this. Of like, what are we focusing on? Like when we are focusing on, we're still not there. There's still so much work to do. That there is, we're not really as far along as we want to be. Then we don't have a good feeling about that, right? It's like, I don't really feel good about myself. I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. I don't feel like I'm successful. So if I don't feel accomplished or successful, I don't feel good about myself. My desire to continue showing up and doing this thing isn't really there. Yeah. But if I'm looking at like, wow, look at that. I just got signed to a label. Look at that. I just got 45,000 views on this. And I'm actually giving that some energy and I'm feeding that energy, right? Then that makes me feel good. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I am making some progress, right? And the thing is, I think we are attached to the wins needing to be really big, right? Where it's like, oh, I'll be happy or I'll feel like I'm a success when I get a booking agent and I'm, or when I get a big manager or when I go play the biggest nightclub in town, right? Then I'll feel happy, then I'll feel successful, then I'll feel validated, then I'll feel whatever. And until then, I'm just going to be over here feeling like I'm not enough. And so
Exactly.
my whole life now, the whole journey is now being driven by this feeling of like not enoughness. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't really want to show up from there.
Exactly. And I mean, I guess another, bigger obstacle for me in the past has been just like time management. And we kind of dove into it on some of our last sessions is the kind of balance between the masculine and feminine, and how our masculine energy really kind of helps us block out those time chunks. So when we do block out that time chunk to show up for music or show up for that like more creative aspect, your mind is already there and it's not anxious about the things you didn't complete before sitting down to do that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like that, I've been very much more focused on really kind of being more intentional with blocking out my time.
Yeah.
Blocking out girlfriend time before music production and, really making my days more intentional.
How's that been going?
It's been going good, man. Honestly, yeah, it's been going good. We had this last Monday. Monday's kind of one of my days off, so it's a big day to kind of do something with my lady and then dive into the studio later on.
Yeah.
And it's like when I set that up and I take that initiative to like do that masculine thing for both of us and like take the lead, that energy caters into the feminine side when that creativity comes out.
Yeah.
And it's much more like just flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I love that we can go deep into that little woo-woo masculine feminine dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has it. So
Yeah.
It's like, it's
Yeah,
learning how to tap into both of those.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like that. The way I look at it is your creative flow and energy. It's like this completely unfiltered, wild chaos of just creative energy that's coming into your life, but it has to go through the filter of, you, like you have to give it structure and give it order, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to take this energy, I'm going to put it into this song. It's going to start at this time. It's going to end at this time. It's going to have these chords, these melodies, this sound design. And like, you're giving it form, and that form is the masculine energy.
Exactly.
Right? It's like the often used metaphor is that the water of a river is the feminine. It's just like this flow, right? You don't really know where it's going, but it's the riverbanks that steer it and guide it in a direction. And we need both of those. We have this passion, we have this energy, but I also need to have the discipline to sit down from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock and say, I'm starting here, I'm ending here. And during that time, I'm going to be focused. I'm going to work on this thing. Something I've been talking about lately is that time, if you are claiming that making art and making music is the most important thing in the world to you, and that you want this dream of becoming a headlining artist and touring the world, if that really is true, then you need to fucking act like it, right? 100%. And what that means is that you got to put in the time, you got to put in the hours. And so having that time block of saying, all right, I'm going to implement some of my masculine energy, which is about structure. I'm going to have some structure around my life. Of course, let's have some flexibility. Let's have some flow, but also let's be fucking disciplined and get after it. That's the only way, because this also is a business, right? And so blocking that time and saying, okay, from this time to this time on these days, this is where I get to be creative. And I love that the word music comes from the muse.
Exactly.
The 9 goddesses of inspiration from Greek mythology. The muses are it's like the inspiration from the universe that comes down and visits you. And so something I've been talking about a lot is like, what's your relationship with the muse, right? Exactly. Like this is what we've been talking about in our sessions. Is like you got your girl, and then you got your side chick, and like your partner, she gets your time and your energy. You need to give it to her, but you also got to give the muse, your mistress. She also you have a relationship with her, and so you have to have integrity by saying like, all right, we got a date. Like just you got that date with your partner, but you also got a date with your muse. You got a date with your creativity. You got a date with your fucking destiny. And so show up. If you say you're going to show up at 6 o'clock, be on time. Show up in the same way that if you were taking out your girl. Yeah. But are we doing that? Right? We got to be real.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think one of the like biggest takeaways for me from like the Art of Flow at Icon and stuff was really the kind of philosophy of not needing to always make more of a banger than the previous one.
Yeah.
Like you're not making your next hit like every time, right? Yeah. And you see many artists kind of get stuck in that rut of like they have one track blow up, like a massive single, and then they're stuck trying to produce something to outdo that one for years to come, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I think once I was finally able to really accept the whole like letting go from it from like an aspect, you know, and like just showing up and kind of letting it work through me. I mean, I'm sure many people here can relate, those songs that just come out of you.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very much when you show up in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So we got a little off course from the real question, that because I know you, we all just listen to your music. This guy has no problem making sick music. He's making really, really good music. You did say so you know how to create.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationship with the muse is actually very, very strong. You know, you make music from your heart. You're creating great stuff. Everybody go check out his stuff. I'm a huge fucking fan. But
Thank you.
You're sitting on product, as you said, and haven't really been putting it out. Exactly. Right. So let's come back to that. What is the resistance around that?
Yeah, you know, I think it was just kind of a learning experience. You know, I had a 7-track darker techno, a bit kind of more left field from what my brand was, and I released that in like the end of 2022. And you know, that was kind of one where it didn't like really necessarily get the sort of traction I was anticipating. I kind of like took some wind out of my sails a bit, right? And then, you know, I released, I think, 13 originals last year and like 3 remixes, right? And this year I released 1 track.
Wow.
Right? And so it's like getting out of that headspace and coming back into that more kind of consistent output.
So take me back to when you were putting out 13 tracks in a year.
Yeah.
Where was your headspace then, and what were you doing then?
I was just excited and creating. I think it was really one big thing for me is like what got me into music production from the beginning is collaboration. You know, working on something with a buddy and just diving in for hours and just kind of getting lost in it, you know, and I find more and more enjoyment collaborating with any artist in that regard, like whether it's a photographer, you know, another producer, a videographer, or just kind of like a graphic designer in some way.
So were you more excited about that music than the music that you're sitting on right now?
No.
Okay, but you were putting out music last year.
Yes.
And now you're not putting out music.
And now I wasn't putting out music.
Okay, so what's the difference? What was going on last year? Why you were putting out music?
I think I just believed in it last year. Mm-hmm. You know, I it was kind of that, you know, mindset of, that rookie mindset of naivety, kind of.
Yeah.
Expecting things to be very linear when it's not even close to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just a part of my artist journey that I really had to go through.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have really been like where I'm at now if I didn't go through that part, you know?
And you know what's funny? I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong, the music you have now is probably actually even better than that music from last year.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're probably a bit, is that true?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Yet you don't believe in it as much.
No, I believe in it. I think a point for me too is like sometimes I'll get in my head about waiting to release music for a label like approval so they can like push it further, right? And really give it like the promotion that like it deserves, right? Or just kind of like saying fuck it, release it independently, and kind of go back to the drawing board and keep creating.
And this is where we have to, again, kind of like the masculine and the feminine. I look at the feminine as sort of the artist side, the masculine is the business side, where it's just the feminine is maybe a little bit more emotional, the emotional side of it, right? We're tapping into, we're making music from our heart, from our soul. The business side doesn't need to be emotional. It needs to just be strategic and also just like kind of black and white, where, you know, I think when it comes to releasing, easier said than done, but like take the emotion out of it. Let's have 2 lists of labels. Who are the A-list labels that you want to release on? And then who are the B-list labels that are like the backup plan?
Exactly.
And so when it comes to releasing, you just have to send a fucking email.
Exactly.
It's like,
Find an email and send it.
It's like, all right, let's hit up all these labels. And then if they say yes, cool. And if we don't get any replies, then okay, let's hit up the next batch of labels. And it's like, we have to just get to the point where it's a system. Same thing with like content. It's like, all right, content, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I put out content. And it's not do I feel like it? It's this is part of the system of my business. And I just click this button and it fucking goes out, you know?
100%.
Again, easier said than done. We get, you know, there is some, I don't know, we get caught up in stuff. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah, it really is that black and white. So this is what I'm going to say is how many songs do you have? Like that you're sitting on?
Probably like 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Okay. So when we get back to, after the holidays, we're going to sit down and we're going to look at what are the songs that you want to release, and who do you want to send them to?
Definitely.
And we're just going to chart it out.
Right.
These songs are going to these labels.
And we'll see.
And you're going to write an email and you're going to send it.
Right. I know apparently Mousetrap listened to the...
Did they listen to it?
The track I played today for 2 days ago.
There we go. Yeah.
Hopefully leads to something.
Yeah.
Leads to something. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that mouse, I guess actually that's another big one too, is like, it was like a 3-year goal for me. Release on Mousetrap, March 1st, my birthday, 2023, you know? It's just kind of one of those where it kind of comes and like goes, right?
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to accept that,
Yeah.
right? And accept more of the like hard part of like, okay, well, why didn't I hit that goal?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, what am I doing or not doing?
Yeah.
That I should have.
Yeah. And
really kinda hit that.
what we're not doing most likely is putting out enough music and sending enough emails. Like, gotta be relentless. You gotta be fucking hungry.
100%.
This is a, you know, it is a bit of a competitive, you know, thing. And it's not necessarily you're competing with other artists, but it's like, you have to have that competitive hunger drive to be like, I fucking want this and I'm going to do as much as I possibly can. And what that means is I'm going to hit up people. I'm going to keep making music. I'm going to hit people up until this shit works, you know?
Exactly.
And it's not to sacrifice like quality for quantity, but closed mouths don't get fed.
100%.
Right.
100%.
And shit's not going to happen unless we make it happen. Every now and then people get lucky, but like we have to have a bit of that drive and a bit of that hunger. None of the artists that I know, you know, with the exception of maybe one or two, everyone that I know that's out there touring full time that are getting after it, they were like, I'm hungry as fuck and I'm relentless and I'm gonna do whatever I can, whatever I have to, you know, like our artists are crazy. Back when I worked at Capitol Records, people would do whatever they could to like try to get their music to us. They would stand outside the fucking door, like with their guitar, like be like, sign me, you know, like God. They were a little crazy, but at the same time, you know, somebody one time I had to, just a little sidebar. My job was I worked in the PR department. So we would help artists get into magazines. We'd help, you know, the journalists write about them, get them on TV. And so one of my jobs was I had to like clip out, and this is dating myself, but when we'd have like newspapers or magazines write about our artists, we would clip them out and we would save those clips. I get the fucking newspaper one day. Somebody had somehow slipped their CD into the newspaper and like Trojan horse their shit to my desk. And I was like, you know what? That took some creativity and that took some effort. Like this guy, whoever this person is fucking hungry. And I was like, I'm going to listen to this. Like, I know it's going to be garbage, and it was completely garbage, but I was like, I'm going to give this person the time of day. And so just that level of, it's almost like we just get a little bit too comfortable.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Like,
you know?
like, what are you willing to do to like get your shit out there?
100%. I think a big thing is like, you know, the discomfort starts in the studio when you don't know really how to produce, right?
Yeah.
You lean into that, you lean into that, you lean into that. And then one day it becomes your comfort.
Yeah.
But you're still leaning into it, right? And you're like, okay, well, like, that's kind of when you're at that like next step. It's like, okay, like I have the art, I have that time in the studio, I have that grind down, right? But it's like, what are you doing with that?
Yeah.
You know, now,
Yeah.
what are you pushing? What are you doing to make yourself uncomfortable now?
Yeah. Well, look, this is what's great about having a coach is you have somebody in your corner to help you step into the discomfort zone. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But we will, when we get back in the mix, we're going to come up with the strategy for just getting those songs out.
Hell yeah, man.
Right. And then regardless, it's like, regardless of what happens, there's going to be a feeling that comes with having done it.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. It's like, oh, I just sent it all out, regardless of if they're yeses or if they're nos. Just that feeling of doing the action, it's going to feel really fucking good. I guarantee you.
I've been trying to lean more into that, like, the initial feeling.
Yeah.
Just doing it.
Yeah.
At that moment.
Hell yeah, man.
Yep.
All right, let's get it.
Hell yeah.
Love you, dude.
Good, man. Love you too, man. Thanks for having me on. All right.
Tyler. Yeah. All right. Tyler, how do you pronounce your last name?
My last name is Pugh. P-U-G-H.
Okay.
Little hint. It's like Hugh. Like Hugh Hefner.
Okay.
With a P.
Tyler Pugh.
That's me.
And your artist name, you have a new artist name, right?
Yeah.
Can we announce it yet? Is it official? What do you want to announce?
That might be something worth like exploring today a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've had some conversations with the agency about this and like
the Cult Creatives.
Yes,
this
sir.
is a Cult Creatives client. Shout out Cult. Shout out Chris White. If you have not listened to the episode that I did with my longtime homie and brother, Chris White, master of branding. Yeah. We do it. We have an agency called the Cult Creatives, and Tyler's one of the clients over there.
It's been an amazing experience.
Yeah.
So shout out Chris.
Yeah. Okay. So what's up? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I think answering that question is pretty cool. I actually had a conversation with another artist here I know you've been talking to. It's kind of a similar situation where years I've been making music. I started out, putting songs out in high school under this arcade alias. And so went on a really long journey, doing hip hop, making hip hop in the basement with my brother in high school. Smoking a little bit, putting stuff out there. You know what I mean?
As hip hop should be made.
Exactly. Yeah, it was very. It was culturally spot on. So, kind of artist journey, like moving through college was like, hey, like I actually don't want to do this, kind of cookie cutter 9 to 5 as an accounting major, which I actually really liked. But I think a lot of people have the same experience. Like they go to a music festival, young, 18, 19, 20, and they're like, whoa, I can do this. Like, I want to do what that guy's doing. That's awesome, especially if you have a background like in music, right? And, I was a musician growing up. My dad was a musician, at least from a hobby perspective, right? And it's like, whoa, like this is an option for me. Like if this guy did it, like why not me? I want to do this.
Yeah.
So for me, that took a really big turn into, I moved to Austin, right? Like I want to go here. So I transferred universities. I went there. I started DJing. I wasn't even into electronic music at the time. It really was like hip hop based. I play guitar. I know something that we share. And so the whole point of this whole story is that, and then I came to Icon, which was also awesome, but huge journey, right?
Yeah.
Decade long thing. Yeah. And so, about the time that I came to Icon, pandemic time, right, started focusing on just getting really good at producing, a lot of things have changed, right? Like I've grown as a person, different ideas that I have. And so I've been wrestling a lot with, this kind of old name, this old branding stuff I put out. Like I have friends and family and kind of a life tied to that, right? And some of that, really soulfully speaking, is really, really close to me as a part of my identity, a part of who I've been for a long time.
Yeah.
But there's also a part of me that's grown and has a new identity, right? After going through all these trials and tribulations of my life. And so a lot of it's just kind of wrestling with like, what's the right decision here? And I don't know if there's necessarily a bad one, right? But wanting to, it's like there's like a new path available, a new identity, right? And then there's kind of like this thing that's been with me the whole time. Do I do that justice? Do I continue to carry that torch? And if I move to something new, does that mean I abandon this old thing? And so, earlier we were talking about the masculine versus feminine stuff, right? And so you got to honor both things, the feeling of like, this is what feels right versus like, what's logically the right decision here.
So what feels right?
Kind of both, man. That's, I think, a bit of the dilemma, right? This old thing feels really like comfortable for me. And I don't think like necessarily in a negative way. But it's been home.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is uncomfortable, I guess. Yeah. Which is right, like leaning into fear is something that we want to do. Yeah. Choose the choice that scares you.
Yeah.
But sometimes, we feel fear for a reason as well. Sometimes, right? Like it's a survival mechanism of like, hey, maybe that's a bad idea. Don't put your hand in the fire because that's not gonna be good for your longevity. So, try to just discern between like, is this the right fear? Is this the wrong fear? Is this a good comfort? Is this bad comfort?
So there is fear when we're literally like putting our hand in the fire, right? But what's the actual, if we're going to use that metaphor, what's the actual pain then of leaning into the fear of going forward with this new artist project and identity?
That's a really good question. The answer I think is like, I think just what's coming to my mind is like kind of a bit of self-betrayal. So in this like, 10-year journey, right? Like, you talk about, you have to really want it. Like I've put myself through a lot of shit. Yeah. Lots of ups and downs. I'm sure everyone here can relate to this, right? Of like, even at Icon, how am I going to pay tuition? How am I work 2 jobs? I bust tables. Like I've done all this stuff. I lost friends. Like, we've had this huge journey, right? Yeah. And like wanting to make sure that as I make this happen, I don't want to lose a piece of my soul. You know what I mean? Okay. And this like thing is such a huge, like it's in my journey and my mission, it's really important to not just do this for me, but I want to show other people what's possible, right? And I don't want to be some sort of commercialized guy that makes it based on like getting popular, right? Like I want to show people what's possible. When I love music, it's because someone speaks to me.
Yeah.
And if I let go of this name and this person that I've brought with me through this whole journey, right? And I step it aside because I think I found something cooler.
Yeah.
I feel like on a level that goes against the very values that are integral to who I am.
Got it.
Right.
So there's a little belief in here that going with this new project, is there some misalignment? Like it almost seems like you're doing it for more of a commercial reason.
Yeah. It's like, I think it seems cool and shiny. It seems to me.
Cool.
I don't know if I want to but it's like, do I want to be Mr. Chase the shiny object thing?
Yeah.
I don't, it's way too early in the game to like say,
so let me ask you that. Is that true? Are you chasing the cool, shiny object right now? With this new direction?
There may be some truth in that. I don't really resonate.
Who gets to decide that?
What do you mean?
Who gets to decide if you're chasing the cool, new, shiny object?
I think everyone has his own opinion, kind of, right? I mean, like some people will think that, but really me, right?
So are you chasing the cool, new, shiny object?
No, I don't think so, actually.
Okay. So it's not that then?
No.
Okay. So what is it? Ooh, I'm fucking you up right now. Yeah. I saw your eyes roll.
I think a lot of it's just that I don't know, man.
What's coming up for you?
I think a lot of it's just like blood, sweat, and tears. I think in particular, like I've had some events where like I lost a really good group of friends at a point in time in my life where I wasn't being my best self. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's something kind of there where like in the wake of that, like kind of happenstance, so to speak, like really doubled down on like wanting to make sure I was aligned with my values, really wanting to make sure that I wasn't like selling out, so to speak.
Yeah.
In this situation, I felt that like I was so focused on success that I left behind things that mattered. Mm-hmm. My friends, people that I was building something with, and I was so focused on me and my ego and the bright lights that I left them in the dust, and it turned on me, and it was really nasty. Yeah. And so I kind of made a commitment to myself that like I'm not going to be that person anymore, and I'm really conscious, or at least I try to be, of like maybe at this point it's to a fault, right? Of like so much wanting to be like like grounded that I've like completely almost like turned away like my desire for success in a way, because I'm like, that's bad. I can't do that. I felt the fire, right? I felt the flame of like all this negative shit that happened. And it's like, well, I'm never going to go back to that again, right? So I'm just going to completely shut off. I've been releasing since that point, man. That's when I was releasing music. I haven't released like that since like 2018, bro. It's been 5 years. Yeah. I stopped.
So you had an experience where your ego kind of got the best of you.
Sure.
You started chasing success, and you felt a lot of pain in that process because you lost some friends. You kind of burned some friends, and you got caught up in that, right?
Yeah.
So now there's almost like, maybe it's unconsciously, but there's a part of you that's like, I can't be successful because success equals pain.
Maybe in a way, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what if I told you that the name of your brand and what you're doing with your brand actually has nothing to do with any of this?
It's probably true.
And what this really is all about is you being in alignment with your values. Right?
I feel that. Thank you, Nick.
What are those? What are your values?
I don't know. This doesn't sound like a value, but the first thing that came to my mind is just people. Mm-hmm. I think that's what this is all about at the end of the day.
Relationships.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of why this is such like a heavy sort of topic, is because like I value people, and then me going after like success hurt people.
Yeah.
That just sucked. And so I definitely see music as a way to like touched me.
Yeah.
And it touched everyone in this room.
So how could being super successful with your project actually be in alignment with your values?
Yeah, it can touch a lot more people. It can, right? Music is a really cool thing where like it can spread through airwaves and touch like millions of lives. Like like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that was in there is there is some fear of the unknown. Is like you've had this brand for so long, you've had this name for so long, and there's comfort in that, right? We're talking about this, you know, knowing the difference between like that discomfort and I don't know. What do you think about that? Like in terms of, you know, really where you're at with. I'm thinking about how to ask this question, but. Yeah, where do you feel like comfort is playing a role in all of this?
I mean, I think that the old and familiar is definitely a comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, no question about it, right?
Yeah.
We can hide there all day,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing, there's no risk involved.
Yeah.
I've walked that path. I know that path, right? And so, it's easy to choose, right? And then we've all like heard the Robert Frost thing, the road less traveled on sort of
I
thing.
love that,
right?
dude.
It's a classic.
I had to memorize that poem in like third grade.
Yeah,
Such a good one.
It's like every year, like, hey, have you seen this poem? It's like, yeah, I'm in seventh grade now. It's seven times. But it's great. And so I think there's a lot of value to be gained just from like going for the unknown, right?
Yeah.
And just like being able to risk it all, because like, you know, not to bring it here for a second, but like, you know, none of us are getting out of this alive. We're all headed to the same spot, right? Like we can't take anything with us, right? So like,
it's a great thing to think about.
yeah, absolutely.
Think about that shit every day, dude. We're here for a fucking blink of an eye.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you want to do with it?
I was going to compliment the Slayer shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
For those listening in, Nick's got a sick Slayer shirt on. So it's like, you know, also the time as well, like, if, you know, thinking logically about it, it's like, if there is a risk and you do mess up and you make a mistake, you can always start again, right? It's like how much worse can it get? Like, take a risk, do something, you know, even if it costs money, like go make more money.
Yeah.
Like go figure it out, go do something else. Like if you really want to be the kind of person who's going to be, right, headliner mindset, right? Like the person that you have to become to get there is not the person who lives in fear.
Yeah.
Right. And is probably going to have to be someone who fails a lot.
Yeah.
And is willing to take that on.
Yeah.
And so if you mess up, like start again, figure it out, make it happen, be hungry.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
I've been listening to the podcast. So.
Yeah. Good. And, you know, I know let's talk about making the decision to go to Icon.
Sure.
Big financial investment.
Yeah.
Did you go back and forth on that decision a lot and kind of like figuring, you know, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Right.
This is actually a good story, man. I got accepted and then kicked out of Icon before I even attended.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I applied and I was very kind of similar situation, was so much indecision, mostly from a financial perspective about I had a start date that was pretty aggressive after when I was supposed to graduate from university.
Yeah.
No plan financially, $0, nothing, just a dream and a belief. And so I submitted the application. I was like, I'm going to do this. And I think maybe you can talk on this a little bit. It's like my state changed.
Yes.
Right. Like I was in it. This is what I'm doing.
This is exactly what I'm getting
2 months later. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
So I didn't know that was part of your story. I do know that, you know, you also have worked with Colt, which is pretty much an equal investment. It's like going to Icon.
Yeah.
And there was some back and forth around that as well. Do I want to do this? Do I not? We ran some circles around that, right?
Well, the Icon experience actually helped me with the Colt experience.
Yeah.
Because I learned from my mistake of being too indecisive. I did learn that if you commit to something, right, then like you can figure it out.
Yeah.
And so Icon, I didn't have that experience, right? And I've heard some people say stuff too about, oh, it's too expensive. And it's like I had nothing and I just had to figure it out, and 1 month at a time.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah.
Like it was hard, but like when I think humans were pretty, like we're smarter than we give ourselves credit for. And if we put ourselves in a survival situation, like instinctively we know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so if you can throw yourself in the situation, if it feels right, like you can trust yourself that you'll make it work.
And so right now you've been kind of on this teetering point of, do I go with there's a new brand, there's an old brand, there's a new brand, there's an old brand. Which direction do I go?
Yeah, I think stepping into the fear, right, sounds like that's the right move here.
Yeah.
And it's like based on the past precedents, it's step into the fear, right? You don't know how it's going to go. Figure it out. And if that's gotten you this far, then, don't, don't fuck up the process.
Yeah. Good. How do you feel at the end of our 20 minutes together?
I feel good. Yeah. I still feel a little like nervous, right? But like, I think that this conversation has made me a lot more comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas at first I was like, oh, like that's scary. I don't know if I want to like eek, right? It's like, no, that's good. That means I'm on the right path.
Totally.
Which I think is maybe what
I mean, this shit should scare you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like if you're not doing something in life that scares you a little bit, you're not fucking playing full out.
I agree. Totally.
You know what I mean? Like we need to be doing big things. We should have goals that are a little scary, that we're a little unsure of. Is this going to work out? Right. And if we just look around at our entire world, our entire society, most people are playing it fucking safe. It's like, let me do the safe thing that is going to set me up for like guaranteed success. And then there's this other few outlier percentage of the population, which are the artists, which are the creatives, which are the entrepreneurs, which is the fucking weirdos that are just like, you know what? I'm gonna YOLO this shit. Yeah. I'm gonna do things a little bit differently and take some chances. And it's like, that's the game we're playing. And we got to live on that edge, not so far beyond our edge that it breaks us, but at our edge where it's like, I'm getting stretched, but in a way that is moving me forward and propelling me to growth and helping me create opportunities and a reality for myself that like most other people don't get to have.
Yep.
Right.
I think what's really cool about this idea is that like when you do turn into the fear, right, and then you get through it, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes there's a lot of struggle getting through that. But when you look back, you're like, oh, like I did that shit, and it actually wasn't that scary. I was really kind of tweaking out about that.
Yeah,
I've noticed that.
Totally. Usually how it works. So, what's the name of this new brand that you're stepping into?
Yeah.
Let's shout it out here on the Headliner Mindset podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been wanting to go by Immortal. Yeah, so it's abbreviated because the MMRTL, classic EDM style.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. It comes from an idea. You might like this a lot, right? It's like the idea that there is something immortal about all of us, right? Some kind of undying being that exists within each and every one of us,
dude.
And
you're speaking my hippie woo language.
Yeah, and
here.
I think it's pretty sick, and I think everyone's got a different conception of like what that means to them.
Yeah.
But I like to kind of remind myself, right? Because I'm not always connected to that.
Yeah.
But that there's always a part of me that's like bigger than me.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, I kind of want to channel that.
I've been stepping into this, or thinking about this idea a lot lately, and I've been talking about it too. Very overused sort of generic saying, but actually I've been really, contemplating this, that, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And so what is the human experience though for you? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, what if it's just a game?
Yeah, totally.
What if it's like, like when we die, we just wake up and we're like, whoa, like that was like, we're down there for the blink of an eye. And it was like, dude, how did you play that game that we just had the privilege of playing?
Yeah.
Did we play it with courage? Did we play it with joy? Did we play it with passion? Did we play it with excitement? Did we play it with creativity? Or did we play it sitting on the fucking sidelines? Yep. Did we even play it at all? Did we play it with fear? Did we play it with scarcity? Did we play it with, I don't know, like just being a little fucking bitch? Fuck that.
I completely agree.
Like, let's just play this game all out and let's make up our own rules. And like you said, this shit's going to be over at some point anyways.
Yeah.
So let's have some fucking fun while we're here. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can, like a roller coaster, right? You can scream in fear, or you can scream like,
enjoy,
like a thrill, and
Hell
scary either way. But
hell yeah, man. Well, I'll be front row screaming enjoy.
Let's do it.
Let's go, baby.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate you, man.
I can't